Today we'll be focused on showing you how to install these wet area panels in a typical bathroom. This is a space in our showroom for which we are now going to put in wet area panels. The starting point is that you would need the floor to be put on, whether you're going to be putting vinyl or whether you're going to be putting tiles, which is what's happened here. It's very critical that everything is nice and plumb, but I must say that the panels do give you some sort of flexibility in the way you can cut it so that it suits areas even if they are not, if they're slightly off plumb or off square even, you can work with that. But knowing this before we start is very important, so we will know how to deal with the panels. So the walls are fairly level, and that's a good starting point. The next step is to make sure we can install this trim, this corner trim. Okay, the way to install this corner trim is we could screw it into the walls, countersunk screws into the walls every 300 millimeters. Probably the easier way is to simply use adhesive on the sides and press it firmly in position. We must also make sure we test it out and see that it is square. And if it needs to be adjusted, you could do so at this stage, okay, to make sure it is plumb. So this gives you some flexibility. Other thing to remember is this trim will subtract about 17 millimeters from the corner. The measurement should be taken into account. The next thing to do would be to dry fit a panel and see how it works. Okay, so we will get a panel. So we should dry fit and see how the panel will look. If the floor is off level, we should know that now. So it's slightly off here. So that means I have to apply some sort of spaces at the bottom. So we are aware now that we would need to raise this end by about 2 to 3 millimeters. These panels, I've got an edge here. You can see the male end, okay, at the starting panel. The male end should be removed. So we should cut off maybe about 10 millimeters. So the panel itself sits in that crevice there of the trim. The important thing is starting the work well will make sure you end well. If the first one panel or two panels are not put in well, all right, the rest of your work will get compromised. So it's worthwhile spending some time and looking through, checking levels, checking plumbness of walls, checking squareness, understanding how the first panel will finish off, whether it will be plumb or not, and doing something in the process of getting that right will save you lots of angst later on when the panels don't line up or you find gaps. It's because of the fact that the panels are not plumb, the starting point. If that happens, you might have difficulties later on. Okay, so you could use any saw. It doesn't have to be a table saw. You could use a circular saw. You could even use a hand saw. You might get a bit rougher cut on a hand saw, but you can always sand it down. So that's what the finished edge looks like. As you can see, it's nice and smooth. After removing 25 millimeters, it's about 6 to 8 millimeters of it will be hidden inside the internal corner trim. And the important thing is to get a fairly straight cut. You can even mark it with a line. At the table saw, I also used a dust extractor. Yeah, it's very electrostatic. Remove some of these little particles that tend to cling to us. Yeah, start to glue, yeah. It's going to be gluing the back of it, these two edges here. Okay. We're applying silicone to the inside of the corner trim. This will prevent water from ingressing. Now we're applying adhesives. to the wall. You can apply it in straight lines or in zigzag like what we are currently doing. Okay, you will be using approximately 1.5 tubes per panel. So there's slight differences in the properties of silicone and adhesive. Silicone has got better expansive properties, and that's needed because as materials expand and contract, you don't want a crack to develop. It's more suitable as a water sealant than an adhesive. But adhesive is necessary for sticking things, and that's why we've used adhesive here and we've used silicone there. We have different colors in silicone. It's generally to match with your panel. So we have white, which is the most common. We have black, we have gray, many different shades of gray. You don't have to be perfect about the match. The important thing is to use silicone at the bottom and inside the trims. That's more important. Putting a spacer down there, putting a spacer down here, maybe 2 is needed here, 2 spaces there, and then we'll make adjustments. Okay, let's try to push it in. Right, so it's nicely slotted in, as you can see, nicely slotted in. Okay, and I will double check the level and make sure that we got the 3 mm gap at the bottom. I think this needs to be pulled out a little bit more on the bottom. Okay, yeah, put maybe a sliver. Yeah, so that's perfect now. Absolutely perfectly level. So we're pressing it in firmly. So we make contact between panel and the villa board or whatever board you've got behind this, so that it forms a nice good contact and it's stuck. So it's important that you press this firmly into position. So with this arrangement here, I will need to cut the edge off here and stop here. I cannot cut the female end of that panel because the female end is needed for the next panel to connect to. I'm measuring to see what the panel that we need to cut. 116 mil, 1160. Okay, this measurement here we said is 996 millimeters. Okay, remember we also have to cut off the male edge here first, and then we'll measure 996 there, 110. We'll do a little notch. And yeah, cut off this edge here. There. Okay, so I cut it down, and then from the bottom, I explained this early on, we had to cut off at 1116 millimeters, which is what it is now at the moment. And we will normally, before putting any glue, we will normally dry fit it again. Okay, try to slot it in. Now you can see this is a flush there, flush here, and this part is left for the next panel to join into. It's easy to work with. There's no grout, as you can see. We have not used grout here. Therefore, there is no mold, because mold and grout go together, unfortunately. Okay, and it's a smooth panel. Water simply slips off. There's no chance for mold to grow. Its condensation is unlikely to occur here because of the corrugated nature of it. It prevents the surface from becoming cold, and therefore condensation is less likely to occur. So there you have, people, the wet area panels, something that will save you time, and it's easy to install. It's a good, if you want to give your bathroom a quick makeover, if you want to make it look new again, the easiest thing to do is to put these panels over your tile walls. But even if it's a new bathroom starting from scratch, this works very well.